So you're ready to get into real, highly respected luxury watches, but you don't know if it's worth it or you don't know which watch to choose. I've spent the last 2 years keeping my eye on entry-level luxury watches, and I've narrowed it down to the top 3 I would choose if I was ready to buy my first luxury watch. So in this video, we're gonna be going over those 3 watches, what makes them special, and which I would choose if I was ready to go pick up one of those myself. Starting it off with a watch that's loved by most, but hated by some. Even if you don't know much about watches, you may have seen or heard about this watch before. I'll give you a hint. It was the first watch ever on the moon, giving it the nickname, the Moon Watch. If you guessed the Omega Speedmaster, you were right on the money. It sounds like a cool watch, but why is it that some love it and others totally hate this watch? Let's go ahead and start it off with the positive. People respect this watch because of its story and its timeless design. I mean, honestly, just look at this thing. There's so much going on here, but somehow it just works and it looks clean. It's not just about the design or the story. Unlike many cool looking watches, this thing is also functional. Surprisingly, it didn't get its iconic Speedmaster name from being launched into space at thousands of miles per hour. In fact, the Speedmaster wasn't even made for space at all. Omega created this watch in 1957 for racing. It was built to measure speed, and that's why it's called the Speedmaster. NASA just happened to later find that its durability and readability made it perfect for astronauts too. And what's amazing is that's just scratching the surface. But I don't want to hype it up too much without giving you some reasons as to why some hate the Speedmaster. First off, this isn't the most versatile watch on the market when it comes to wearability. With a 42mm body, the Speedy is pretty huge, especially on smaller wrists. Another reason is that to more casual owners, it can seem a bit high maintenance. Depending on the model, it requires manual winding, which can be frustrating for people who expect convenience in a luxury watch, especially since you can go buy a $10 watch on Amazon that doesn't require any maintenance whatsoever. However, if you really want a Speedmaster but don't want to wind it, you can look into the Speedmaster 57, Speedmaster Racing, or the Speedmaster Chronoscope. These aren't NASA spec, but you get the modern convenience that some are looking for. Another reason is because some say that it's way too overhyped. They argue that most buy it for the clout or the story behind it rather than its aesthetics or functionality. Then lastly, something that most consumers can agree is bothersome is the price creep. Speedmasters used to be relatively affordable, but due to all the hype around it, the prices have gone way up, making it way less attainable and even less desirable. But despite what the haters say, almost anyone can agree that if any watch deserves the hype, it's going to be the Omega Speedmaster. Falling in at about the same price point, the next watch I would recommend is the Cartier Santos. Though there isn't as much hype behind this watch, the Santos is absolutely no stranger to history. This Cartier Santos was the first pilot watch ever. Some even debate that it was the first men's wristwatch. You see, back in 1904, Louis Cartier had a close friend who was one of the pioneers of flight. His name was Alberto Santos Dumont. Santos was frustrated that he couldn't easily check his pocket watch while he was up in the air. After complaining about this problem to Cartier, he designed a watch with a leather strap and visible screws. Today, this doesn't sound like anything crazy, but at the time, this was completely unheard of. The same year, in 1904, the first pilot's watch in history was created. A few years later, in 1911, the Santos was released to the public, and the design was unlike anything anyone had seen. It had a square case in a world where every watch was round. It had visible screws that felt rough and industrial. It used Roman numerals, and to take it a step further, Cartier added the iconic railroad track design, giving the watch that balanced look that is also functional. These railroad tracks were placed as a design element, but they were also there to measure time with precision on this more unconventional dial. Every iconic watch has a subtle detail that most people overlook, but on this Cartier Santos, once you see the railroad, you can't unsee it. One more even smaller detail that makes this watch that much more special and appealing can be found right here on the Roman numeral 7. Sometimes it's on the V, sometimes it's on one of the eyes, but if you look closely, you can find one of Cartier's most famous Easter eggs, the Cartier word mark. They were all added in the late 1970s to 80s as a subtle anti-counterfeiting measure to help buyers see that what they were about to buy was the real thing. And to take the history even a step further, in 1906, Santos Dumont was the first on record to take off, fly, and land using a powered plane. Anything before this was done on a launch rail. But what makes this story cool isn't just the fact that Santos was the pilot who did this, but he was actually wearing the Cartier Santos on his wrist when this happened. So while the Wright brothers took flight for the first time 3 years earlier, Santos Dumont's flight in 1906 was the first public and officially recognized power flight in the world. Now fast forward to 1978, Cartier released the Santos in a stainless steel finish, but this time adding a gold bezel and exposed screws. This was decades before Audemars Piguet's Royal Oak or Patek's icons became legends. But it's clear that both of those now famous watches wouldn't have ever been born if Cartier didn't first invent the design language. Cartier was showing the world that luxury could be more than just gold, blending sophistication with utility. Just a few years later, having one of these on your wrist meant status, and was worn by some of the biggest names in the world and still is today. But with the Santos, it was never about being a status symbol. Like any of the greatest products in the world, what made this watch so special was that it was designed to solve a problem. And it did that so well that over 100 years later, it's one of the most beautiful things that money can buy. And what's more, you didn't just buy a beautiful watch, you bought a piece of aviation history. century. And that's a heritage that no other watch on the market can truly claim, quite like the Cartier Santos. Today, it's loved because of its timeless design, iconic roots, and the fact that it can be dressed up or worn down casually. This all makes it arguably one of the most versatile daily drivers ever made. Now, unlike the Santos and the Speedmaster, this next watch actually isn't special because of its history. In fact, it's almost the opposite. The third and final watch I've grown a deep admiration for is the Seiko SBGA 413 Shunbun. And because that's a long name, it's also known as the Cherry Blossom. To understand why the Shunbun deserves a place in this top 3, we have to understand the Japanese philosophy that brought it to life. See, Seiko is a Japanese watchmaker that believes that being present is the greatest measure of success. The West measures time by what man can do with it, while the East measures time by how deeply one can feel it. To elaborate even further, in the Western world, respect comes from achieving significant things in the shortest time possible. However, in the East, respect comes from honoring the moment itself, by being patient and by mastering your own attention, rather than becoming the master at managing the clock. In this world, success is measured not by how much one can do, but by how much one can experience and live in each moment. Seiko embodies this philosophy. Its watches aren't just made to tell time. These watches are reminders to slow down, to be present, and to honor the often mundane moments in life. So before we take a closer look at the craftsmanship, let's look at the philosophy behind this watch. It's broken down into 5 principles, and knowing what these are may just be the difference between you thinking it's just another watch to feeling like you actually need one. The first is mono no aware. This is the philosophy that everything is temporary, and that's what makes it beautiful. The Shunbun reminds you to notice and appreciate the moment before it's gone. The literal meaning is the gentle sadness of things. That beauty is found in the moments because they don't last forever. It's the sadness you feel when cherry blossoms fall or sunset fades, all with gratitude for having witnessed those things. The second philosophy is where the watch got its name. The Shunbun principle is a reminder that spring is about balance. This is when day and night are equal. This watch shows that life is better when things are in harmony. In Japanese teachings, it represents the idea that opposites like light and dark, life and death exist together, and that there's opposition in everything. It's being at peace with the fact that that's the nature of the world that we live in. The third is a more widely known Japanese philosophy made popular by the book Wabi Sabi. The principle is called Wabi Sabi, and it means that nothing has to be perfect to be special. The subtle texture and soft colors on the watch make it feel alive like nature itself. Wabi Sabi is valuing the things that are imperfect and having an appreciation from the wear and tear that come from time and use. So in this way of thinking, wearing the watch every day and seeing the watch get worn in is the beauty of the watch. The fourth is Takumi. The literal meaning is master artisan or craftsman. It represents the roots of this watch, that every part of it is made by masters who spend years perfecting their art. Now, the fifth and last principle this watch was created around is Michi. The literal meaning is the way or the path. By definition, Michi is the philosophical belief that excellence and understanding come from a continuous journey, not a final destination. It's a lifelong path of learning, mindfulness, and refinement. The Shunbun teaches that being mindful and present is something you practice every day. After hearing the 5 principles this watch was built on, you can see just how much craftsmanship, attention to detail, and artistry was needed to bring this thing to life. But if you think that's special, you're not going to believe what Seiko did when it came to the design. For starters, we'll address the nickname, the Cherry Blossom. At first glance, you see that the Seiko Shunbun has a soft pink dial inspired by cherry blossoms in full bloom. While most watchmakers play it safe with a smooth finish, the Shunbun pushes the boundaries with serious texture. The snowflake-like pattern plays with light, and depending on the angle, the color changes from a silvery white to a light pink or even a subtle rose color. Now, let's be honest, all of that is impressive, but many watches can brag about a thing or two. But something that Seiko does with this watch that really sets them apart is the case. The Shunbun uses something called high-intensity titanium, which is about 30% lighter than stainless steel, yet even more resilient to daily wear and more scratch resistant. On the edges, it's polished using the Zaratsu technique. It's a polishing method that's done by hand. And even though this is extremely time intensive and must be done by a master artisan, it results in a mirror finish with zero distortion. This watch uses a mechanical quartz hybrid called the spring drive movement. This was one of the most significant innovations in watchmaking ever. The seconds hand doesn't tick. It glides smoothly, symbolizing the continuous, natural flow of time. And my personal favorite thing about the Cherry Blossom is that it's the epitome of luxury, but you only know if you know. Again, signaling balance in that it gets no attention from the masses, but when somebody does know what it is, they really know. And that creates a special connection between anyone who knows anything about this watch. You don't find this watch special on accident. From the case curves to the smooth gliding hand, everything about this watch invites you to be calm and present. It's not about showing off wealth or status, but about feeling a connection to time, nature, and craftsmanship. It represents the emotional awareness that beauty comes and goes, and that mastery comes from patience and endurance. Steve Jobs, the father of functional design himself, said, "Design is not just what it looks like and feels like, design is how it works. And as you just saw, no one understands that or practices that saying more than Grand Seiko. As you can probably tell by now, buying a luxury watch for the first time doesn't just have to be a transactional experience. It can be something special that you remember for the rest of your life. And if you're not ready to buy a luxury watch but felt a strong connection to one or all of these watches, that's even better, because when that time does come, how special will that moment be when you can treat yourself to something that you felt so connected to for so long. Now, at the beginning of this video, I promised I would tell you which watch I would choose if I was to walk away with one of these today. Honestly, after writing the script for this video and diving even deeper into the history and meaning behind these, I fell in love with each of these watches even more than I already was. The Shunbun resonates with me emotionally, the Santos is a versatile timepiece that can elevate any outfit and make you feel refreshed, and the Speedmaster is a watch I've had an undeniable connection with from the moment that I saw it. So honestly, I don't think any of these would be the wrong answer, and one day I hope to own each of them. But at the end of the day, I would have to choose the watch that I've always imagined having in my collection, and one I know that I would buy and keep for the rest of my life to pass on to the next generation, and that would be the Omega Speedmaster. Now, I do want to say that this doesn't diminish my love for the Santos or the Cherry Blossom, and it honestly doesn't even put the Speedmaster at number one. It's just a watch that I've always wanted to own, and I think for me, it would feel wrong to buy another luxury watch before that one, because that's always the first one I imagine buying. And I think we can both agree there's just something about that word mark that says Speedmaster. I know I'm not the only one when I say it just makes me want to throw on some leather gloves and drive a manual Porsche through fresh mountain air with the windows down. But at the end of the day, this video wasn't about what I would choose. I made this video for you, the first time luxury watch buyer. So what I really want to know is, after watching this video, which watch would you choose? If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or have a newfound taste for watches, please subscribe.